Okay, then hello there, everybody. It's crazy because I was just listening to my recording and I just said the same shit. Diary of a Wimpy Kid Killer. Really.
Violence.
I wanted to check this out, Chris. Why
Who
not?
shot and killed his own mother has been sentenced to
Damn.
life in prison.
Delusions.
And he also allegedly had plans to assassinate Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Damn.
Arrests.
Law enforcement officials in Vancouver explained to Deadline that Grantham has been in custody since 2020.
Today we'll look into the story of one of the wildest downward spirals of an actor in recent memory.
He's an
And it's
actor?
crazy to think that a star from the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie will be spending the rest of his life in prison.
I thought they meant like the book, like a character who the book was written about was, you know, not the other way around, or the actor.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid is an American children's book series created by Jeff Kinney. It follows the life of Greg Heffley and his attempts to make the most out of his middle school experience.
I did watch this shit when I was young. I mean, not watch. I did read this shit a lot when I was younger. I didn't really, what's it called? I didn't really watch the movies though.
The story originally began online, with daily entries posted on the website Funbrain. This changed in 2007 when the first printed edition hit store shelves. The novels quickly...
I remember our bookstore having these bitches, and I didn't go to the library back then. Like, I was young and like still basically elementary, and I remember this shit being in all the libraries, bro. And then I was trying to get all the colors of the books and shit.
Became a classroom staple for their humor and relatability, and that popularity only grew over time. By 2011, the franchise was valued at $500 million, selling over 200 million books worldwide. Naturally, this success drew interest in adapting the story to other mediums. Within months of the first installment, Kinney was flooded by calls from Hollywood. They pitched a myriad of ideas, including mixed animation and puppetry. Eventually, he landed on 20th Century Fox, who suggested a straightforward live-action movie. The cartoonist agreed as work on the screenplay began. The film was released on March 19, 2010. Though panned by critics who found Greg Heffley unpleasant, it was a box office success. Fans praised the movie for being faithful and well-made. In most adaptations, there's controversy over the casting decisions. That was not an issue here, as much thought was put into portraying each role. That takes us into the subject of today's story. Throughout the first book, Greg's middle school organizes a play based on The Wizard of Oz. But because so many kids auditioned, some were forced to replace background objects. One such student is Rodney James, who is relegated to playing a shrub. Though Rodney's a minor character, he's necessary to the plot. During a rehearsal, another boy trips over the shrub and chips a tooth. This convinces the school to cut armholes for the trees, a privilege that Greg abuses. This role, while small, secured his inclusion in the film, and that meant they had to find someone able to portray the character on the silver screen. Enter Ryan Grantham, a child actor from British Columbia. Ryan's career began at a very young age. He filmed his first role in 2007 when he was just 9. By 2010, the adolescent appeared in over a dozen different productions. With the help of his mother, Barbara Waite, the aspiring actor was tireless in seeking out roles. It was in this search that they came upon a casting call for Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Like so many times before, Ryan auditioned and got the job, appearing in the film as Rodney James. While the role was ultimately insignificant to his career, one of his scenes became memorable amongst fans. That was because it showed the boy playing Mario Kart on the Nintendo DS. Ryan would become more well known for his performances afterward. In 2011, he starred in a 9-minute short called Liz, which centered around two kids running away. It was critically acclaimed, with the boy winning a Young Artist Award for Best Performance in a Short Film. The young up-and-comer appeared extremely promising and almost destined for great things. He went on to make appearances in Supernatural and iZombie. But looking at his filmography, it's clear over time he began to lose interest. There's a gap between 2016, where he abruptly stopped acting for 3 years, and following his appearance on Riverdale in 2019, he seemingly retired for good. While he appeared to have a promising life ahead of him on the screen, little did the world know about the mental turmoil occurring in the young man's brain. We'll learn more about this after a brief word from our sponsor.
Damn.
Let's be honest, most people's bedrooms are pretty generic at
Is
night.
this a
At
sponsor right
most, they'll
now?
have a bowl of galaxy lamps.
Okay.
Base
That
from
that is
clock
actually pretty
gets
cool.
dollars purchase. Flash. While Ryan Grantham could have gone on to pursue more film roles, as time went on, he began to question if that's what he truly wanted to do. At the age of 21, the young man sought more out of life. He enrolled in Simon Fraser University while staying home with his mother. It seemed optimistic at first, but as time went on, the man struggled to keep up. And to make matters worse, his mom was then diagnosed with cancer. This
Damn.
led Ryan to fall into a deep depression as he turned to drugs and alcohol to numb the pain. It was in this state that he began keeping his very own diary to express his shame and anger at the world. The journal details his depression, academic troubles, and disgust with foreign exchange students. In one entry, he praises Todd Phillips the Joker for portraying the quote-unquote way society hits the other, as well as those with mental illness. This disillusionment eventually turned homicidal as he fantasized about murder. He began using the dark web to obtain otherwise banned videos of ultraviolence, and he later wrote, "I have feelings about being a serial killer rather than a mass murderer." By the spring of 2020, Ryan stopped attending classes. The now dropout loner instead began planning a mass shooting at his former university. He went so far as to scope out the campus, sitting in his car with a shotgun. Ryan also considered attacking the famous Lion Gates Bridge. He contemplated climbing onto its towers and throwing Molotovs before shooting people. But the plan he settled on was assassinating Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. To him, Trudeau was the most important person in Canada, as he fixated on the potential fame. Throughout March, Ryan became more and more convinced that this is what he needed to do. But the 20-some-year-old man couldn't bear the idea of forcing his mother to live with such guilt. Because of this, Ryan began plotting to murder her. In a video filmed days before the month's end, he walked through the steps using a GoPro. He even discreetly approaches Barbara with a gun to mime what he was going to do. This was just one instance of many, as Ryan struggled to pull the trigger. That is, until March 31st, 2020. On that day, his 64-year-old mother was focused on playing the piano. Ryan realized this was the perfect opportunity, as she would be too distracted to notice what he was doing. He retrieved his .22 caliber handgun and sat on the front steps. He loaded and unloaded the firearm for 15 minutes before deciding to follow through. Ryan then walked inside, held the gun to the back of his mother's head, and fired. Barbara died immediately, collapsing to the floor. It was only then that everything began to set in. Ryan proceeded to write a final journal entry expressing remorse. It apologizes to his mother and sister before addressing his Hollywood career. There's a lot of media of me out there, film and TV. Hundreds of hours of me that can be viewed and dissected. No one will understand. Then, Ryan used the GoPro to film a second video. In this 4-minute-long recording, he documents the crime scene before confessing, "I just killed my mom. I shot the only person who loved me in the back of the head." He then looked at the camera in the mirror to state, "You thought you were so tough?" Afterward, Ryan strangely attempted to relax. He left home to withdraw cash before purchasing beer and marijuana. Upon returning, he spent the next 3 hours watching Netflix. He'd spend one last night in the home, covering his mother's corpse in a blanket before going to bed. The next morning, he printed out directions to Trudeau's cottage in Ottawa. Ryan loaded his car with 3 guns, ammunition, a dozen Molotovs, and camping supplies. Before leaving, he lit candles around Barbara's body and hung a rosary over the piano. And with that, the once child actor began driving east. It was at this point that Ryan's sister Lisa became concerned for her family. Neither her brother nor mother were returning any phone calls or messages. Because of this, she decided to visit the townhome, only to discover a crime scene. She then found a note left by Ryan confessing to what he had done. Law enforcement quickly initiated a homicide investigation, inquiring the public for information. Ryan wouldn't make it far into his trip. It was infeasible, as the distance required 2 days straight of driving. Because of this, upon reaching Hope, BC, he turned around. For a brief moment, he considered attacking the 2 other locations he scouted, but instead he drove to the police headquarters in East Vancouver to turn himself in. He approached an officer sitting in a police car before bluntly stating, "I killed my mother." Ryan was arrested and immediately charged with first-degree murder. They searched his vehicle, discovering the journal and videotape confessions. He pled guilty just a year later, accepting a deal that lowered it to the 2nd degree. During the sentencing hearings, Ryan's lawyer argued that he deserved a leniency.
At that time of the offense, this killing was not done out of hatred or animosity. It was done in disordered thinking to prevent his mother from seeing what he thought he was about to do.
The defense reasoned that the killing was not done out of hatred or animosity, so he was of lesser risk to the public. They also pointed to his mental health issues, a lack of criminal record, and willingness to turn himself in. Under psychiatric evaluation, he was diagnosed with cannabis use disorder and depression. Ryan would receive counseling in prison to address his emotional and psychological issues. This made him optimistic that if released, he would continue on the path of bettering himself. In June of 2022, he formally apologized to the court. "I cannot explain or justify my actions. I have no excuse. It hurts me to think about how badly I've wasted my life. In the face of something so horrible, saying sorry seems so pointless. But from every fiber of my being, I am sorry." His sister, however, was unconvinced. Lisa remained adamant that her brother was a danger to society and that the murder had devastated her life and career. In a victim impact statement, she told the court, "How can I trust anybody when my only sibling chose to execute my mom when her back was turned?" On September 20th, 2022, Ryan was sentenced to life imprisonment. He will remain there for at least the next 14 years when he becomes eligible for parole. While it's unknown exactly what the future holds, his lawyer has since expressed concern. 8 days after the decision, Chris Johnson spoke to news outlets in fear of his client's safety. He stated that because Ryan looked like a 17-year-old, he was at greater risk of being assaulted. As of the time of writing, it remains to be seen if he's successful. So there you have the story of the downfall of an aspiring actor.
That's crazy, though. Damn. That makes sense. Blowing that story out of proportion that way. When they explained it, yeah, I thought it was like the legit actor of the Wimpy kid, but it's just dude who played a small part. But yeah, let me know how you guys feel about it. That's tough. If you feeling crazy right now, get yourself checked out. Just saying. Bye.